Wow, the spending bill. Where do I start? What a yard sale, you guys. And it looks like the Dems, Republicans, and the Trumpocrats are all taking credit for this relief bill that will send the economy into oblivion. Or that's what normally happens when you spend trillions of dollars like this. So, of course, the bill was signed by Trump after his 48-hour pout session, along with the pork, the foreign aid to all his buddies. And I'm sure that behind closed doors, him and the Democrats also negotiated because they have their own pork in the bill. Make no mistake, Trump has pork in the bill too. Billions of dollars to Izzy to the real. You can read it for yourself. When people step outside of the right-left paradigm, they can see for themselves all the spending that Trump has in the bill too, that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're going through right now. If people want to be honest. And of course, all of the AI, the crypto, the Internet of Things, the whole enchilada is all included in the bill. And we're all supposed to feel better because Team Trump handed it to the Democrats, right? But at the end of the day, pretty much nothing changed from the original bill, despite the pouting going on. Now, both sides are pouting. It's not just Trump, of course, because they're all the same. And the quicker we figure that out, the quicker we can actually take our country back. It could actually be a country for the people. Now, of course, we know the biblical prophecy says that's not going to happen. And I did talk to a few of you in the comment section today. And look, as Christians, what are we supposed to be doing right now? What is the main goal? Well, it's to bring people to Christ. But it's also to help preserve life. Why do you think Jesus went around healing people? And why did he tell his disciples to do the same and spread the gospel? Why did Jesus call out the lies so often? Why was he so adamant about telling the truth? Which is everything we're doing here on this channel. It's because when you wake people out of their sleep, they stop perishing because of lack of knowledge. All of that's in the Bible. So we're not supposed to, as Christians, just fold up the table and chairs and just say all of this has to happen the way it's happened and there's nothing we can do about it to stop it. No, we can't stop it. But every channel on YouTube that has stepped outside of the right-left paradigm, every channel that didn't believe the lie, the Q lie, every person that we were able to convince might be a person who decides not to take the VC, or a person who doesn't give fuel to the fire by their voting and belief in everything. And so in effect, you're actually helping to save lives. Think about all the businesses who believed in Trump, for instance, who now have lost their business. Well, what kind of state of mind do you think those people are in? Think they're probably starting to question their faith? This is about spirituality. This is about your belief. This is about faith. You never give up. You never concede to the lies and the enemy. Jesus never conceded to the lies and the enemy. He always stood up for what was real and true and called out every lie that spewed forth from their mouths. Even when it was his own disciple, when he said, "Get behind me, Satan." Do you see how this works? This is about information. This is about exposing lies. We never should stop doing this. So that is my reaction to the Christians who just say, oh, there's nothing we can do to stop this. We picked the best person we thought. Okay, now things are about to get real. Because I'm now calling out where the blame should be put for where we're at right now, on the precipice of mandatory VCs. We're on the precipice of the new normal. This will now become our life. Where does the blame go? Well, obviously it goes to the enemy. But I'm going to drill down to the people that believed the lie, that are part of the problem. We would have never got to this point had more people been awake, had more people not believed the lie. And now, here we are. We're here, you guys. And all of this, or most of it, could have been avoided. People were put to sleep by the Q crowd. Notice you're not hearing very much out of them now, because they've already achieved their objective. The objective was warp speed. Make the VC. Let the businessman do it. Perfectly positioned. We'll let the businessman make it, and we'll let the Dems deliver it. Perfect plan. And they fell for the plan. They trusted the plan. And if you don't think this is a big deal, or you think that I'm trying to stretch this blame too far, think of it this way. I'm going to have to spell this word. How do you feel about the VC? Well, most people, on this channel anyway, don't want to have anything to do with it. Right? They feel as though it could harm you in some way, shape, or form, or at least the possibility of harming you. And whatever you want to call it, some people are calling it the mark. Whatever it is, it's the choice being taken away from you. That's the least case scenario. Worst case scenario is that it could be harmful in some people's minds. So, think about this critically. Take all of the emotion out of this. If you're a person who believes that Trump has given you a choice to take this or not take it, does that really matter? Doesn't it really matter that the people who you love are going to be taking this and could be harmed from it? When did we stop caring about other people? When did we start giving up their destiny and conceding any effort to save them? Isn't that what this is all about? Isn't this what our movement is about? To get people to wake up and save them from harm? So, does it make any sense that you would say, oh, well, I'm not taking it and I have a choice to not take it, and Trump says I don't have to, so you're just going to forget that he made it? Imagine that this VC is a BIOWEAPON. Imagine it like that, because in some people's mind, this is what they believe it could be. And so you're okay with it being made just because you don't have to take it? What about all the other people that are going to take it? And I'm just trying to get you to open your mind and understand how damaging the right-left paradigm is. How damaging it is when you pick a side of either one of these idiots. You're just talking yourself in circles. You're just giving up your moral ground when you do that, because these people are going to make mistakes intentionally to manipulate you. See, notice in this article, for instance, they put Trump and Pelosi. This is the, what is this? This is the battle of the ages, right? This is the contest. It reminds me of those, the build up to those boxing matches, right? And they've got the two going head to head. Tail of the tape. Our political system is no different. Trump throws a punch, knocks Pelosi out. Pelosi fires back. And each side are like the spectators in the audience standing around the square, rooting for their team. This is how they completely manipulate people. When are people going to wake up? I don't know if we ever will. So, let's get more into this bill. So, this has been passed And not one major news outlet is talking about how all of this is going to get paid for. Who's paying for all this? Who is paying for all this? Let me refresh this page. I had a graphic I wanted to show you guys on here. Now, notice that even though most of the troops have been taken out of the foreign countries, the defense budget is still through the roof. Are we going to get any of that money back? You guys, we're not deploying a bunch of vehicles and men personnel and flights and, why don't we get a refund check for that? Billions of dollars, if not trillions, of the defense budget. Are we going to get some of that back now that we're at like half the capacity of the military? Nope. That's not how it works. What about school budgets? Are you getting a tax break on your property taxes now that the schools are empty? That there's no overhead in the school buildings, there's no buses running, there's no children in school. Now that's for parts of the country. Some of the country has reopened, but think about this: for at least 3 to 6 months, there were no lights on in these schools, no buses running. Why don't we, if you're going to give people money back, give them the money you've already taken from us that you're not using right now? But that's not going to happen either. Now, this is the way it works. When you hand out all these checks like this that they're doing, the market just automatically corrects itself. Look what's going on with rents. Rents have gone up for a lot of people and in weird places. Some places it's gone down, but only really in the really, really big cities where the most draconian measures have been brought to bear to deal with the CV crisis. Most places, the rent's going up. And how is this being allowed to happen? These are what I call exodus cities. Look at here. So here's what the rents are doing. Boise has gone up. A lot of people are probably moving there, but Seattle has dropped. Zoom this in. And many other places have gone way, way up. How is that being allowed? Well, what do you think? Landlords know you're getting a stimulus bill. They know that you're getting checks in the mail. So why wouldn't they increase your rent, knowing that you've got this extra money? So this is what's happening. And what else is happening is people are fleeing to escape the draconian handling of the CV crisis. There's a massive restructuring of America that's happening that very, very few outlets are talking about. Here's Forbes. CV-19 has changed the housing market forever. Here's where Americans are moving and why. A lot of people are moving to the South. There's a mass exodus happening right now as people escape. And not a lot of outlets are talking about this. You see, nobody wants to live in a city where they're threatened, fined, forced to stay home, where the police forces have been decimated, where mandatory VCs are looming on the horizon and fast becoming a reality. Now, people can say, oh, it's because of fear of the CV. I don't think it's the fear of the CV. I think it's the fear of how they're handling the CV is why people are leaving. Now, I was telling people years ago when we started this channel to do this, to get out of these cities. And now it seems to be happening, but for a lot of the wrong reasons. And wouldn't it have been a better idea to do this years ago on your own terms than at the mercy of the market and the housing prices going through the roof right now? So you're probably paying double what you would have paid years ago. had people started to plan on doing this. I don't know why anybody would want to live in a big city. Look at what's happening with home prices. And make no mistake, as these home prices begin to rise, rents will continue to rise. That's how the two go hand in hand. Because the homeowners who are renting, they have to pay more in property taxes. And that spills right over into the rental market. U.S. home prices rise at the fastest pace in more than 6 years. So all the major news outlets are reporting on this. Even Seattle home prices have gone up, even though their rents are falling. So this is what's happening. Now, when you decentralize yourself from the beast can't control you as easily. They can't patrol every single rural area. They are at the disadvantage. They like to stack and packed with easily accessible paved roads. They like compact airspaces and closable points of entry and exit. A prime example of that would be Manhattan Island, because it's on an island. There are only a few bridges. All they got to do is close the bridge and you're stuck. There are a lot of people leaving Manhattan right now. It's one of the places of most mass exodus. So this is probably why the mainstream media isn't really talking about the exodus, because they lose all their power. The powers that be lose their power when people leave these areas. The cities go empty and they've just lost all their power. So when you get your stimulus check, you're already paying that money back in extra rent. Rent went up $150 a month or $200 a month. You're going to be paying that stimulus back in 2 to 3 months, along with higher food prices that have gone up 5 to 10%. It's all just a shell game. And really, it's meant just to manipulate your emotions and to make you believe that someone is looking out for you. When in actuality, all you really need people to do is get out of the way and stop controlling us. Now let's look at the reality of what's really going on with CV. And I want to be brutally honest and clear about this. There is a 0.1% mortality rate. In other words, there are 300 million Americans. Here it is right here. And there are, what we're told, and I believe this is very questionable, this number, that there are over 300,000 dead. That is 0.1%. That is 1/10 of 1% total people. Okay. Now, here are the number of people tested. Look at this. And here's the number of positive tests. And they like to throw this number out because they've tested all these people, and these are the number of positive tests that have come back. They like to throw this 9% number out because that sounds scary. But on its face, this is a very low percentage of the total people. So why are we still engaging in all this nonsense? Why are we so hesitant to go back to the way things were before when these numbers are so low? We don't need any more checks. We don't need any more rules. We don't need any of this. All we need to do is knock all this off. Look at this. 80 million tests out of 300,000 questionable deaths. That's 0.4%. That's a very, very small number. So What else do we have here? Here's what's going on in California. Extended the stay-at-home orders. You know, California is going to electric cars in 2030. No new gasoline cars will be sold in California after 2030. What do you think that's going to do to gas prices in California? The supply will slowly dwindle down and they'll just force people into electric cars. Gas prices will go through the roof there, or here, which is where I'm at now. And it almost appears to me as though they're locking down the coasts. Why do you think people are getting out of the coastal areas? What do you think they want for this? Well, they're probably going to make these coastal areas, they're going to reinforce them, right, as points of entry. They're going to create another virtual fence. So we'll have the coastal fences, the southern border, and then the northern border has its own natural fence, mountains, and all of that, and weather. So it almost appears as though this is some kind of dragnet where they're closing the loop on America. Now, a lot of people have some very strong feelings with regards to which side they fall on, right? And it just befuddles me because people can look past the same exact reaction or action that the opposite side does just because the other side is doing it. Really, it's boiled down to people just believing their team no matter what, even if their team is doing the exact same thing as the other side would do. You'll look past it because it's your team doing it. Well, why am I talking about this? Well, look at spending for Trump. This is before CV-19 hit. This is from way back in February, you guys. February 1st, 2020. Trump blew through the deficit, raced past even Obama. I do not like Obama. Both sides are compromised. But here's the truth. Why are people looking past this? And this is on an upswing economy. This is on an economy swinging up. And look at this. Trump blowing past Obama before we even got to these huge stimulus bills. Again, this is not a defense of Obama. This is simply the facts. And, people want to call themselves conservative and Republican, but this doesn't jive. If Obama would have done this, we would have been jumping up and down and angry. So, Trump is spending like a Democrat. And there just went your 401k economy bump after the Trump election. Because, yeah, your 401ks might be doing fantastic. But how are you going to end up paying for all this spending down the road? And this is how it works. It's a shell game. It's the appearance that an economy is doing well, but it's propped up. And then they secretly take it all back at the end in spending, foreign aid, and both sides are involved in this. They all are acting the same, even though they're telling you they're going to act different. That's just lip service to make you believe that something is being done. Now, let's go back into the show here. Appreciate everybody showing up. I just wanted to have a quick discussion with you guys about this because this is the state of the world. This isn't Trump bashing. Both sides are doing it. They're both at fault for this. We'll do a little Q&A before we pop off of here. But I'm just going to quickly go through these tabs in case there's anything I forgot to mention here. Now, I'd be interested to hear from you guys. because you guys are like the real deal. Oh, look at this. Here they show you the $900 billion stimulus deal, but what they don't tell you is this is only 40% of the bill. This $900 billion is only 40% of the bill. And look how they massage this. They show you all of the spending for America, but they don't tell you about the other 1.3 trillion that went to foreign spending and all the other stuff. Why is that part of the deal? Why can't we just have this part if you really care about people? And even this is bad because we really don't need this. We just need to go back to the way things were before. We need to call this for what it is. We don't need money being thrown out like this. That's Democrat thinking right there, to just throw money at stuff. Okay? So, it's interesting how they report on this because they only show you about 40% of the total spending. And if you're just a layman, you're going to look at this and go, oh, it's a $900 billion stimulus deal. No, it's not. It's a 1.3 or it's a $2.3 trillion deal. Okay? This is why you got to read between the lines. So that's where that sits. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys. What's going on with your rents? Have your rents gone up? And how much? Just go ahead and pop that into the chat as I go back in here. Look at this poor lady out of China. She's in jail. Why? Because she spoke out. She tried to tell the truth about what was really happening on the ground. And they're calling it disinfo. And so this 37-year-old woman over there got arrested. And who knows what's going to happen to her. All right, let's go back in here. So how much of your rent's gone up? And you can just tell us what general area you live in. I don't want you guys to, share too much personal information. We are on the internet. But I would like to hear how much your rent has gone up since, let's say, since March. Or since the first stimulus. And heck, why don't you share how much your food prices have gone up? See, we got to share information because that's all that really matters at this point is the information you guys share. I don't really believe what the mainstream media says. I more believe what you guys say. You guys are the real deal. Someone said $50. $50. Do we see $100? We're going to have like a rent auction. Uh-oh, someone's just went by really quick. Okay. My rent went up from 552 to, wow, 666. I would probably, have that readjusted. Mortgage, 2,200. My rent went up because we renewed our lease. I'm in Connecticut. How much did it go up? All right. Rent went up $25. How in the world did they allow that to happen? Mine went up $100. So on average, between $50 to $100, people's rents have gone up. Now, many of you live in areas where your rent's only $600 or $800 a month. But if your rent's like $1,500 a month, your rent could have gone up $200 to $300. $50. Everybody's rent has gone up. Now, many of you will remember pre-CV19, did our rents ever go up very often? Hardly ever. Landlords don't typically raise rents unless there's a problem. Some things have gone up a little. Grocery-wise, your landlord tried to up by another $200 from $2,450. Wow. So it's a big money grab by the landlords. Now, this is the opposite of what the mainstream media is telling us. Still the same here in Arkansas. What is the mainstream media telling us? Oh, there's no evictions. There's an eviction moratorium. And did you know that if you accept the eviction moratorium, you don't just get to skip those rental payments. It stacks up and you pay interest on it. All that says is that the landlord can evict you. He's loving this because he's still going to get his money. It just doesn't go away. There's no financial assistance for you to pay that. You still have to pay it. It just makes it so he can't kick you out. So what good is that to the family living paycheck to paycheck? It's absolutely no good to you to have a moratorium on evictions. It's all smoke and mirrors. So that's what's going on. This is the truth of the matter, as evidenced by all of your testimonies to that effect. Okay, to make this fair, how many people have had your rent stay exactly the same? Now be fair, because it's got to be that your lease, if your lease has come up in the last 9 months, how many of you have had your rent stay exactly the same? Because we need to give fair balance here. Taxes going up 25% in Austin. Rhode Island is paying $700 a month for a 4-bedroom and $215, now paying $1,500. How in the world can this be happening when we're all in crisis and so many people are out of work? Just bizarre. Mine is still the same. So some of you, it's still the same. Same. All right. I would say, what do you guys say? Half and half? Half has stayed the same, half have gone up. Yes, love of money. But do you see how it's just a balance of, that it's just how it works? Like everything is countered. So yeah, the stimulus checks go out, but then people know that stimulus checks are going out and they want a piece of that. So what's the quickest way to do that? Raise food costs and raise rent. They just want your stimulus check right there. Now, had all other things remained the same, had there been things put in place to prevent food prices from going up, like a freeze on inflation, or to prevent landlords from raising rent, like with an executive order, then we wouldn't be having this show right now. But I'm tired of people giving Trump so many props and giving the government so many props for sending out these checks. It's doing us no good at all. We didn't see this kind of inflation last year, did we? Did we see food go up like this last year? No. And like I said, most people didn't get their rent raised last year. This is a phenomenon specifically connected to CV-19. Which again neutralizes completely. In fact, it probably puts you back down in the red if you equalize these payments that went out and equalize that with all the additional money that you're spending on the things in your life. Now, for wealthy people, think of it this way. The more wealthy you become, you spend a lot less percentage of your income on food, right? Because we all eat about the same amount of food. So your percentage you spend on food goes way, 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 way down the wealthier you get, right? Because you're not going to eat that much more food just because you have money. So who do increased food prices affect the most? It affects people living from paycheck to paycheck. All of us, you and me, all the people on this channel. We are the ones most devastated by even a 5 to 10% increase in food prices. The same applies to housing costs, right? So, I mean, unless you are one of those people that has to live in a multi-million-dollar home and you're carrying a mortgage on it, yeah, you're spending about the same percentage of your income and your wealth as a person impoverished or, paying $500 to $700 a month in rent. But as a person that's renting or living at a lower level of living, you almost never have your property completely paid off. And probably more people that have wealth do have their property paid off or own properties that they can escape to or go to and never be homeless, right? So once again, who is most drastically affected by these increases in rent, it would be people like us. So I'm tired of people saying that Trump cares. He doesn't, because if he did, this would all be fixed so where it wouldn't affect us like this. I mean, couldn't they do an executive order saying put a freeze on food prices? No price gouging. I think we talked about this early on when there was some price gouging going on Amazon. And there was a lot of it, you guys. Remember, you guys are ordering toilet paper online for 4 and 5 times the amount of it normally costing? That's called price gouging. Where was the law against that? And Trump can say he's against price gouging, but until you do something about it and enforce and stop it from happening, then your words mean nothing. So you paid a bunch of money for a bunch of toilet paper. And look, I'm trying not to be negative here. I'm just telling you guys the truth. If the truth sounds negative to you, I'm sorry. But we're here to tell the truth. I'm trying to get you to understand where we're at here. Okay? And some people need to hear this verbalized in order to finally get it. So, what else has happened? Well, the rich have gotten richer. You've seen the channels and videos on all this. We haven't gone into it in high detail, but a lot of channels have covered how the billionaires have gotten richer. Ben Swan has a great video on how the billionaires have gotten richer through all this, and we've gotten poorer, as I just explained how we've gotten poorer, because of food and housing costs, which represents a very large portion of our income, right? So how is that fair? It's not. It's not fair. And now all the housing costs have gone up, so it's going to be harder for people to get out of the cities, even if they wanted to at this point. The window of opportunity is closing. So, what is the hope? Well, the hope is that God does have all of this under control, and He does have mercy and grace. And He will always have an escape plan for you. Even if that escape plan it hurts, is not as comfortable as the escape plan you could have had years ago, there will always be an escape plan for you. And at the end of the day, even if you lose your life, you gain life. You gain everlasting life. If you believe. So even if all the cards are on the table, there's always that way out as well. So this is where everything stands. Wanted to reach out this morning and communicate all this to you guys. I do have a video uploading tomorrow. And it's 2 shows that we did in the summer. And we were talking all about the coming mandatory VCs and how they would gradually start to tighten the screws down and coerce and convince and propagandize you to an almost 100% rate of people taking the VC. We already were talking about that in the summer. We were trying to get you guys to not approve of this warp speed. We did lots of videos on warp speed, and all I got was Trump supporters angry at me. Well, here we are. Here they are. V-Day is upon us. And now the decisions and choices are going to get a lot tougher as they tighten the screws on you and threaten your job. Many of you might have already gotten a notice from your employer. How about we talk about that for a minute? Have any of you got notices from your employer about them wanting you to get the VC? I'd be interested to hear how many of you have gotten one of those notices. Now, many of you are healthcare workers, and so absolutely you got a notice that you have to take it. I thought nobody was going to have to take it. Well, apparently many people are going to have to take it. A lot of colleges are making this mandatory. So if you want to go back to school, you got to take it. So it is mandatory. So, a lot of blind pastors, exactly 7 grains. Lots and lots of blind pastors out there leading their sheep to the slaughter. This is what I'm talking about. This is who we're speaking out against. So let's read in the chat here. No, and I work for government, so I'm so waiting to find out if they're going to do next. I'm a healthcare worker, says Zarlodius. Are they going to try to force you to take it, Zarlodius? Remote only. Oh, that's good. So you might not have to take it. Children in schools. Yeah, that's the big question mark, Suzanne. What are they going to do when the children go back to school? Are they going to force it or not? Well, it's starting to sound like they might. And this could be across the board. Well, think about what kind of position that's going to put you in as a person who was saying to this channel and all of us here, oh, why are you so hard on Trump? He said we don't have to take it if we don't want to. Now what? Probably would have been a good idea back then to stand up and say, okay, we support you, Trump, but there's no way we're letting you go forward with this warp speed. Knock it off. And if enough people would have stood up, they would have knocked it off. But I think people out of fear, or maybe they thought, oh, well, he has to do it so we can all reopen. Well, the whole thing was a straw man to begin with. We just went over the numbers. We just went over the mortality rate. Now, some will argue, oh, the mortality rate's low because of everything we did. That's hogwash. There's enough people out there that are not wearing masks, that are not distancing. They've shown it on the news, right? Where's this massive upsurge? Where is the 3 and 5% mortality rate that they all feared us that would happen? It never happened because it doesn't work like that. Where's this contamination everywhere on every surface and floating through the air? It never happened because if it did, we'd have 3, 4, 5%. We would have millions of Americans dropping out, would we not? According to them, it only takes one person to infect everybody and cause the an irreversible impact on the emergency workers to where they're all going to fall ill and we're not going to have any nurses and doctors and police officers and firemen left. The whole assertion is ridiculous because this is why they were so adamant about everyone wearing a mask and everyone social distancing, because they had to create a paradigm, a false paradigm, so that then they could, because they knew if they couldn't get everybody to do it, then we would all look around at each other 9 months later, which is what we're doing now, and go, wait, a lot of people didn't do this and we didn't have all these spikes. The rate of infection has remained very, very low. The rate has not changed. It's been the same since the beginning. We didn't see an uptick or increase just because 5 to 10 to 20% were not wearing masks and not social distancing. Where are the numbers, you guys? You got to wake up. You got to wake up. I mean, it's crazy to me that we've gotten to this point. And everyone just thinks that this thing could surge out of control, and it never has, and it never will. So, what else? Zero cases in some city. Lockdown still, the Bearded Star says. Did Jesus eat bacon? I don't probably think so. Well, he may have. I don't know. Probably not. Consider Jesus in a different covenant. Look at the Bible as covenants when it comes to bacon. That's completely off topic, but we each have our own covenants, groups of people. God had a specific covenant or set of laws with the ancient Israelites that did not apply to even their contemporaries, like the Canaanites. They didn't follow that covenant because they weren't part of God's chosen people. So there's sets of rules. Now, Jesus being he may have been part of that covenant along with the ancient Israelites because he came out of that bloodline. But the rest of us go under the grace and we fall under Christ. So I don't like to get into debates about whether or not we're supposed to eat pork or whether or not someone is unclean if they've done this or that, because those laws were under a specific covenant. All right, back to the chat. They're telling healthcare workers to take it. Yeah, this is what was coming. So 1,200 plus 600 equals 666, says Mike. Yeah, 1,800, 600 plus 600 plus 600. Wow, good point. That was a great grab there. My hospital is full. I had to close the ED and full of CV cases and ICU and med searches. FALBA. I'm sure that some ERs are full. Guys, did you know that a lot of these hospitals have taken their workers down in terms of like less people are working? Think about it. They've gotten rid of all non-essential care, right? Preventative medicine, now that all that's been pushed back. So the hospitals are probably about half as staffed as they were before. Now, I don't know if the half number is accurate, but some of you can chime in the chat. If you work at a hospital or near a hospital, are the hospitals at full staffing right now, or are they not? These are the questions we need to ask, right? So if a hospital is at 75% staffing or 50% staffing to control the spread, right? Then yeah, it would appear to be full. Not only that, what else is happening? Well, we are in flu season, are we not? We're in flu season. So yeah, a lot of older people, we looked at the numbers on yesterday's show. A lot of older people are falling ill like they do every single year from upper respiratory, pneumonia, and all these things. And if they happen to also test positive, then that is called a CV-19 case. You see how this works? So, my son works 3 days a week, been in hospital 18 years, Tampa. Several hospitals near me completely shut down. Yep. See, there's a lot of hospitals. They basically closed half the hospitals and then short-staffed the other ones that are remaining. And so, yeah, it's going to make it look like the hospitals are all full. I can't believe... Let's look this up. I can't believe the shell game. How many hospitals closed after all right, here we go. Look at this. 17 rural hospitals have closed in the first bankruptcies or closures. Wow. They tell you the truth. You just have to find it. So this is from the American Hospital Association. All right. Americans, hospitals, and health systems continue to face historic challenges. Since the start, hospitals and health systems have faced unprecedented financial pressures. Wait a minute. I thought these people were getting billions of dollars. Oh, that went to Izzy to the real instead. We can't keep the hospitals up. We got to give it to Izzy to the real for defense. But yet our own hospitals are closing and they're saying it's because of financial pressures. Isn't this what the stimulus was supposed to be for? The cost for preparing for a surge, months of essential hospital revenue being erased due to the combination of forced shutdown and slowdown of regular operations for non-emergent care, this is what we were just talking about, and treating a growing number of uninsured patients. With the virus now once again surging, these pressures remain and could be exacerbated. And now some hospitals are increasingly facing the threat of bankruptcy or closure. More than 36 hospitals have entered bankruptcy this year. Wait, how is this possible? Where's all this money? Oh, it's ventilators. Once you go on one, you only have a 70 or 80% chance of getting off of it. Wow. Let's search this page for the word closed. Closure. The combination of blah, blah, blah and hospital closures. Let's see here. Wow. So the number of the bottom line is the number of hospital beds. What? Has decreased. So of course it's going to look like, look at this, 100 over the last decade, 170 hospitals have closed. And this is accelerating. 17 rural hospitals have closed in the first 3 quarters of 2020. On track to exceed last year's closure count, which was 18. So we've had the most hospital closures in the last decade. We had it in 2020. How does that make any sense at all? It's almost like they want it to happen to make it look like the hospitals are full. Now, these are rural. This is just one source that I looked up. There's probably many others talking about the hospital closures because, oh, look at this. 12 hospitals have closed. 47 hospitals have closed. Why are they closing? Unbelievable. Sorry, guys. This is upsetting. This is dated November 13th, 2020. Why don't we take off the spending bill, the foreign aid, and keep the hospitals open if we're so overburdened and overwhelmed by patients filling them up, right? You guys, there aren't that many hospitals in some of these metropolitan areas. A lot of them have 1 or 2 or 3 hospitals. So imagine what's happening here. 12 hospitals in 8 months have closed. Hospitals across the nation, and the same thing. Look at this. Georgia. Wow. 2 hospitals closed in Georgia. Florida, Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, Houston. What else? Tennessee, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kansas. Now, of course, this is not a complete list. Let's see here. Florida. Let's go back. This other source said 40-something hospitals have closed. Look at this. This is October 2020. Wow. So, this is the real story. The mainstream media will not tell you. This is being artificially propped up. Why this year? Why so many hospital closures this year of all years leading up to this? Have not hospitals always complained about uninsured patients? Have not always hospitals complained about all these things? What was the catalyst that pushed them over the edge in the most time of need? The most time of need. That it just so happens to be we're in the middle of a spamdemic and we have hospitals still closing in America. Guess what? If this was real, I'll forego a stimulus check to keep the hospitals open, right? Where are the priorities? Why do we have these pork spending bills with all this extra spending when we have hospitals still closing? If this was real, wouldn't the hospitals be the priority? Do you see how none of this makes any sense at all? And they're making emergency tent hospitals? Who's paying for that? If you can't afford to keep the ones open that are already open, who's paying? Why make a tent hospital when you could have a real hospital right down the street that just closed? It's because the tents look dramatic. It looks like how they are in the movies where it's overflow of patients and that we have so many that they're in these tents outside. Do you see what's really happening here? Makes me so angry. Makes me so angry that people keep believing the lie. We're being manipulated. So that's the truth. I just showed you documenting evidence of what's really happening. And if we keep playing this right-left paradigm, if we keep blaming the other side, then this just keeps going. It'll keep going until Jesus comes back, until people wake up. We can have some semblance of getting our rights back. Drama tense. I like that, says Project Heart. Oh, man. Okay, I've been ranting a little bit today. This is about as excited as I get. For those of you that are new to the channel, I try to keep it low key, but days like today, whew, man. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end the show. If you haven't already, be saved. Time's running out, you guys. Much love.